trying to see if this trash is going to join the mosh pit of trash. Yeah, it's probably going to. There it goes. Pretty crazy. This one's out at Skillman right here. All the school systems, what would happen is, since they would have this like fog or some type of device that would blind the active shooter, is they'd have something on the floor that you could see where the emergency exits are, which would be redesigned. All the schools would be redesigned. And what would happen is, as long as they're able to look down at their feet, they'd be able to follow this line that they'd eventually find. And they'd have certain things they'd call out. There may be like a rope or something they could all, remember when you were in school, you'd all grab that rope and you'd go walking, everybody would grab the rope. And the entire school would be flooded with smoke, so no one would be able to see anything. So none of the kids would be able to see the wall in front of them. No one would be able to see anything. So if the active shooter was there, it'd only be by chance that the bullets would hit them. And then they would grab this rope and they would follow each other. You know, there'd be a line on the ground, and that would lead to the emergency exit, which would always be, I would say, within 50, maybe 100 feet from every classroom. So it'd be a way to just exit immediately. As long as the kids are able to get out of the actual school, then they can run free in different directions away from the school. Well, the kid can willingly do that to save his own life. If the kids bunch up together, then they're more likely to probably get hit, but they would be able to hang on to the rope and be pulled out of the classroom that way. And they would be able to exit the school. The most important thing on an active shooter situation is to make sure the kids are out of the actual school and not trapped inside the classrooms like in Uvalde. So there'd be emergency exits, and they'd be able to get out that way. So the main purpose would be to blind the active shooter, allow the kids to escape the school as quickly as possible, and to have some kind of system where they could all go out through different fire exits and things like that. You want to get the kids out of the school and create a lot of chaos for the active shooter, so the active shooter doesn't have these lambs huddled together in a room where they can just go in and slaughter them. That's kind of what they do. So it would be quick exits, like these exits that they just run right out, and then they just go running into the playground or into the nearby field and take shelter. Then by the time the police get there, they'll have thermal, and the whole entire school would be smogged out in smoke. Thick smoke where you couldn't even see. No one could even see, not even the police. But they can see through the thermal. So when the SWAT goes in, they go in with thermal gear, like Google's. Let me get the right wording. The devil's working against me. Goggles. Goggles is the right word. They'd have thermal goggles where they can go in and they could see where someone would be. And all the other kids that want to live would be able to just run out through the smoke. Now, it'd be scary. Now, this would be they'd have to train doing this. But what would happen, an alarm would go off. It'd be an active shooter alarm. It'd be very loud, okay? So loud that it would disorient the active shooter. Very loud, like it'd be a very loud alarm. Even like the neighbors or people in the community could hear it all. And a siren would go off within the community, so they would know the active shooter is around. Then the entire school would fill with this smoke, just like the military uses. And they would have these ropes that they could use to follow out into the fire exit, to the different fire exits. Then once the kids are out of the school, then they could run for their life. And also you could have smoke around the school too. You could have smoke that floats all around the school as well. So they could run out into the fields or whatever. And since the alarm is so loud, right? The alarm is so loud, even the traffic around the school would have to completely stop. So you would train the community or the public to respond to this very loud noise that would go on. It'd be deafening almost. It'd be an active shooter alarm. It would be so loud it would actually deafen the active shooter. Then smoke would go everywhere. By that time, it'd probably kill the whole plan of the active shooter. And when it would run out, then the people around, the community around would hear, so the community can actually go in and help too, to make sure that their kids are saved. Now, this is a very radical project that could be used at these high-tech schools to stop the next active shooter. We're pretty much right next to a lake. Everything kind of has, there's like these, it's almost like valleys that go into where the lake is. But we're nowhere, I mean, this order is nowhere near what it's saying on the schematics. So I have no idea. I don't think the schematics are very sound to find out where these people are. I have no clue. This one's a tough one. A very tough delivery on this one, because I have no idea where they would be located. The building numbers say 24, but we're looking for like a building that's 7. So it's way, way off. Way, way off. When the schools are redesigned, each school probably like in a corner of the classroom, every classroom would have a camera, and then also it could have thermal on it too. And in the corner of it, there would be like a little nozzle, okay? And this would be to release smoke into the classroom. Now, we're not talking toxic smoke. Whereas you can create smoke where you can still breathe it and everything's fine. And even asthmatic people can breathe it. It's not the smoke that you're thinking of that they would use in the military. This is just smoke that would disorient the active shooter, and it would completely 100% smother the room where you couldn't even see your own hand in front of you. Now, they can invent this kind of smoke. The government has done it for military operations where nobody can see. So all of a sudden, you're just covered in smoke. Loud alarms would also be installed in each classroom, so loud that you can't hear. So you take out the active shooter's hearing, and you take out the active shooter's sight. So they cannot see in the classroom any longer, and they cannot hear, okay? So they're disoriented. Now, there would be a line on the ground where they could follow the line into where the fire exit was, or you could install a special exit for every classroom where the doors would open and the kids could run out, and then because the kids will run for their life, because the kids want to live. If you trap them in the room, then they're like basically lambs to slaughter, meaning it's like shooting ducks in a barrel. So you have this exit that opens, the kids can run out and they can go be free. Now, all the parents are going to want this because they want their kids mostly, in every cases, they're going to want their kids to be able to exit the classroom. They're also going to want their kids to be alive. They want the kids, and they're going to want to protect the life of the active shooter. Now, when I was in banking, the thing was we saved the person that was bringing in the fake check, okay? So it was about saving the customer, even though they'd have a fake check and they could go to jail for that fake check. Well, we would investigate it to make sure that check was maybe it was counterfeit or something like that, and then we would return it into where we needed to do whatever it may be, and then we would try to save the customer and let them know, hey, that check didn't go through, blah, 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 instead of just calling the police and having them arrested, you see. So what would happen in this situation is we would allow the kids to run out of the school and run free, okay? And we would try to save the life of the active shooter. So we wouldn't go in military style and just snipe the active shooter. We would disorient them. Most likely we would tase them, or we would tackle them. You know, there can also be a training where the kids learn to tackle somebody. Like in football, you learn to tackle somebody and how to disarm a person. They could teach students how to disarm people, or teach a student how to disarm someone that may have an assault rifle. And even if a police officer went in, you know, or something, how to disarm a police officer. So the idea is for the students to work together as a body to protect the active shooter. So the students, let me show you an example. There was an active shooter situation that happened on kind of like a Quaker, like Quakers, Amish, okay? And the kids offered their own self up to be shot or killed first so that their friends could live. It's a very kind of Christian concept. So the active shooter went in and told everyone that he was going to kill everybody. And then he raped the teacher, or I don't know if he raped the teacher, he molested the teacher, or he molested the students. And then he told them that he was going to kill them. So the kids went ahead and offered up their own life so that their friends could live. And some of their friends did live. And so the person that offered their own life up was shot and killed and molested or whatever. And this really happened and it made national news, okay? And the Amish people went to the person's wife and they didn't ask them for forgiveness, but they said that we accept the forgiveness. Like they said that they would forgive, basically they were saying that we forgive what your mean husband did, and he had the gun and went in and killed the teachers and the students and stuff like that. And I think one of them, because the Amish don't have telephones, had to climb a pole and call the police, and the whole shebang made national news, and it was a big deal because they asked for forgiveness. In this case, the student body would be saying, listen, we'll do what we have to do to save the active shooter rather than to have the active shooter be killed. So you take the violence out of school, because you teach the student body, you teach the school to say, we want to save the life of the active shooter. We don't want the active shooter to be killed. And that's why there's smoke and there's disorientation and loud alarms and stuff that goes off, so that the school, in their thoughts of how they want to stop it, is they want to save the active shooter. They don't want the active shooter to be shot. So you're taking the violence, you're taking the Columbine out of the active shooter aspect of schooling. Why we're wrong, why Uvalde and all that stuff didn't work out, is because their plan was to kill the active shooter, not to save the life. And the student bodies wanted to kill the active shooter, not to save the life of the active shooter, because the active shooter was a student, was a young kid. So what you do is you teach you teach the student body to think like, we want to save that active shooter's life. Okay, that's what we'd rather have. And you take a vote, ask the kids, would you rather kill the active shooter, have the active shooter killed, or would you rather save the life of the active shooter because the active shooter is mentally ill? See the difference? So when the police go in to kill an active shooter, they're going in to kill a mentally ill person that would probably end up on SSI or something. A person that would probably be taken by the state and put in an institution because they were going around with violence. Now, here's the one thing, or they're going around with a lethal sidearm, or they're going around with an assault rifle. Here's the one thing that we have to teach our students, okay? That the active shooter at that moment is not acting upon his natural instinctual behavior. And some people believe they're full of demonic forces, right? Some kind of demonic force. And some people believe that they've lost their way and they're maybe mentally ill at that moment. And let's say if Columbine, those two guys, right, Eric and whatever the other guy was, were tackled right there in front of the school, and their duffel bags were taken away, and everything was done, and let's say the school came and had a meeting, and they talked to Eric and the other guy that was doing the shooting, and they say, listen, we don't want you to do this. We care about you, and we don't want to kill you, or we don't want you to take your own life, that kind of thing. Because they feel like they're in a situation, the active shooter feels like they're in a situation where their only way out is to take their own life in the end. And if Eric and those other guys could be studied today, you would find out they probably didn't want to do what they did, okay? So we teach the student body not to hate. We teach the student body not to kill and not to actively become an active shooter. Because if in their minds they want the active shooter to be immediately killed, then we'll have nothing but war in the school, and the police will win, right? The police will get their way, and they'll get to play their video games, because most police officers play Call of Duty. Most police officers go on a field and they play that game, where it's paintball. They play paintball, and a police officer doesn't want, listen, the only thing a police officer wants to do is shoot you. They want to shoot you. They want to kill. People in the military, they want to kill. They're trained, the Marines are trained to kill, kill, kill. So we take that out of the school, right? And we teach them that we love that Marine with that gun that wants to kill, kill, kill. And we love that active shooter. And we want them to simply understand that we'll have to disorient them, cover the entire school in smoke, and make sure that nobody's seen. See, ideally, the students want to live, okay? In a lot of cases, the active shooter wants to live too. And so do the police, and so do the teachers. The teachers want to live too, because sometimes the teachers get killed because they're on duty and they'll lose their entire career if they were to run like cowards. So my plan is to let everybody run free. It's kind of if I were running for like some kind of teaching board or something like that, my plan is to make sure every student gets to run free from an active shooter. They don't have to be held in there like prisoners. And you know, some of those kids would have ran away, and some of them tried to. The police went in there and trapped them all in there and nearly killed an entire classroom. So yeah, they should have been fired, and they were. And many police officers will be fired, and some of them will go to prison too for making the wrong decisions. But what I have to say ultimately is it's mostly the kids out there that suffer from police officers that abuse their power. And Uvalde was an example of police officers abusing their power, because I saw a police officer putting dip in his mouth. You know, like dip, right before he was going to go in, and that police officer lost his job. They told that police officer, you can't be a police officer anymore. That's what happens when you're about that size. You have to get an assault rifle to prove your point. Good day, police officer. Racetrack, actually, they have these for just a couple of dollars. You can get a couple of dollars. The only thing is that police officer's gonna be begging on the side of the street, and he's not gonna be able to get his hot dog anymore. Because if you don't have income, then you have to ask others if you can eat. This country is going to hell.